an Undertow content podcast.
Undertow content acknowledges the traditional custodians of the land on which we are recording this podcast. We pay our respects to elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people Australia-wide.
From Undertow Content, you're listening to Cut the Podcast, where we deep dive into the many facets of the entertainment industry, both locally and internationally.
We're bringing you unfiltered stories and raw insights with no gatekeeping.
We're your hosts,
Amanda Brown
and Nell, and today our expert guest is the fabulous Jeanne Jo, a writer-director living and working in LA who has had a really interesting journey to come to where she is. Initially starting out as a visual artist, she took a film class at USC and fell in love with filmmaking. This episode was recorded before the devastating wildfires in Los Angeles. We are sending all our love to all of our friends and everyone who have been affected.
Today's topic for In the News starts off with an article published in The Hollywood Reporter by Carly Thomas, who interviewed actress Amanda Seyfried on why moving out of Hollywood was the best decision. The article says, Amanda Seyfried has found the ultimate work-life balance. While the actress traded in the glitz and glamour of Hollywood years ago for New York City, even that proved to be too much still, leading her to eventually put down roots on a farm in upstate New York. And now, with a husband and 2 children, she wouldn't change a thing. I moved upstate long before I had a family. Staying here was the best decision for privacy, peace, and nature. It offers a more balanced life than the city does, Seyfried recently told Forbes, adding that it is essential for my mental health.
Okay, now not everyone has the career that Amanda Seyfried has that allows them the type of flexibility she has, nor do they have the financial comfort to be able to afford to travel, etc. But it raised a question that is relevant to both of us and definitely a lot of other people who are living in big cities, LA in particular right now, which is, do I have to live somewhere that I may not like in order to have the career that I want or can't afford or whatever that may be? And what am I sacrificing and is it worth it?
This definitely resonates for both of us.
Yeah.
So what I've noticed, there are a lot of Australians who have moved either to the UK or to the US. You and I both have more experience with the US. But there are a lot of Australians who have moved overseas to make it, quote unquote make it. And they are now turning around and going, I'm ready to go home, or they've come home already. I think COVID was kind of the kickstart of that. Yeah. And then strikes in our industry. And, I know a lot of people are affected by the most recent election. Yeah.
But also like after COVID, like Zoom became a norm for taking meetings.
I didn't know what Zoom was.
Right?
Before. I
kind of did. Put shares into Zoom before COVID.
I kind of did, but I did not know what it was Skype or it was something else.
Yeah, whatever it was. Self-tapes, right? For all the in front of the camera people. So we really didn't have that global access before COVID.
If you're from a small town and you want to make it, obviously, if you're from a small town in New South Wales, you go, I'm going to move to Sydney.
Yeah.
And
then got to
go where the opportunity is. And that I think is still relevant.
Yeah.
But with what's happening in LA at the moment, or the US at the moment really, but LA in particular, LA has always been this place where you go to have a career in film and TV. It's where you go to make it or whatever.
Yeah, it's where all the big players are.
Yeah, it's where the decision makers are. It's where the agencies are. It's where the studios are. Yeah. It's where,
everything happens.
Yeah, and because of the state of the industry at the moment, which is the people with the money aren't spending as much money. And when they are spending money, they are shooting things not in LA because it's too expensive. Yeah. They're going where they can get more bang for their buck, or they can get money back from the government, tax incentives. Is there funding that can contribute, all of that kind of stuff. Where's crew cheaper? Where's this cheaper? So it's not even like they're going to other parts of America. They are, but they're also going to other parts of the world, Australia included. But because that work is going out of LA, going to LA right now to make it, what does that mean and what does that look like? I love that city, but it is a hard city.
It's a tough town.
It really is. And there's really amazing things about it because everyone's trying to do what you're doing. And it's like there's an acceptance in LA of like what you're doing is valid. Yeah.
It's a real job.
That's what the city is known for. So wanting those things in LA is not kind of frowned upon, or there's more support there than you would probably have in other places. And I think that's a really, really big thing for people. You go and find your tribe, you find your community. But living there is hard because it's that whole thing of you are underpaid until you are overpaid in a lot of situations. And it can be really lonely. It's a very transient city.
Yep.
There's a lot of in and out. Like you go where the work is.
Also, it's competitive too. Like
very competitive.
Everyone's really out for their own kind of agenda.
Yeah. And I also think because of the rejection that can come for a lot of people, or because it's this, you know, it's going to go, and then it doesn't. It takes a hit. It's a toll. And what Amanda Seyfried was talking about was it was essential for her mental health.
I love that too, that she said, I made this decision for me, and it doesn't have to impact her career negatively. Power to her. We've seen heaps of Aussies move back to Australia permanently and do really well, and it's benefiting the local industry here.
Yeah.
You know, we're seeing a lot of investment as well. So it's a positive for those local markets. I'm assuming in other regions as well, it's the same. But I think as well, what you were saying, I felt people wouldn't take me seriously until I'd moved to somewhere like LA.
Yeah.
And I feel that here too, because I've spent time there. It somehow legitimizes me.
100%. If you have LA on your resume anywhere, it does. I think there's a few things. It shows that you backed yourself that much that you went over there. And who are the people that you met over there? Who did you work? You worked with people. It's almost like, you worked on a different level. Yeah. And whether that's true or not, I think I do think you're exposed to things over there that you're not in other territories because of the nature of the industry there and Hollywood. I've been having a lot of conversations. We've been talking about a lot of people who have been moving home. There are a lot of people who are, should I go, but also should I leave? There's still people on both ends of it questioning. Yeah.
I think it's about life stage as well.
And, you know, we've had a lot of conversations about network. In LA, you build a network, you know.
That can be very valuable.
Very, very valuable. It's like the sharing of information and all of this kind of stuff. So there are people over there who are like, I've been here for X amount of time. My parents are getting older. Yeah. My family's having babies. Or like, I just want a tree change or whatever it is. Do I go home? Do I don't? What does it mean for my career to go back to where I'm from?
It shouldn't affect your career.
But I think it's that thing of like, a lot of people think, well, if I need to get on a plane and come out here, can I afford to do that? Yeah. And how often am I going to need to do that? Yeah. And then it's the people thinking, do I go over there? Right now, it's like, yeah, go over there to create a network, but is there opportunity to work because of the state of the industry?
It's a tricky one.
Yeah, it is. I got to a point where it was like, my quality of life has to come first because you do burn out. You work hard in that city. You work really hard.
Broken, everything. But then I was like, wow, that was great for the whole experience.
You look back on it now that you're recovered. Yeah. And you have money in the bank, but you work really hard and you're like, oh, okay. I think as you get older too, it's like
you can recognize all of the opportunities and the potential and all that stuff that it gave you anyway.
Yeah. And also you figure out what you value in terms of, okay, my big thing was I want to be able to swim in the ocean every day. Yeah. And it's not that you can't do that in LA, but in order to live close to the ocean, you have to make a decent amount of money. And LA is quite an outdoorsy lifestyle anyway, which is fine. But I think growing up in Australia, we're very lucky and we're very spoiled.
Very spoiled.
But it's also that home. Like if you come from a good home, if you're lucky enough to come from a good home and families,
also free healthcare. That was a big thing for me too.
Me too. And then I get here and everyone's like, you need to get private health. I'm like, that's not why I moved home.
Damn.
I'm like,
it was a lie.
That's not why I'm here. Anyway, I digress.
Rant over.
Yeah, rant over.
We are so excited to introduce Dr. Jeanne Jo. Jeanne Jo is an LA-based writer and director of comedy, action, and horror, and has worked in both film and television. Her work has been widely exhibited, including at the Slamdance Film Festival, Scream Queens Film Festival, Tokyo Winner Audience Award, and the Southern Utah Museum of Art. As well, she has an MFA from the Rhode Island School of Design and a PhD from the University of Southern California's School of Cinematic Arts. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yay. Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
What is it that you do? How would you explain what it is that you do?
Yes, that's a great question. I identify first and foremost as a writer and director. I also make visual art and I also teach a bit in the cinema school at USC. I work with undergrads. Man, they really keep you like sharp and honest, and I just enjoy them so much. And as long as I can, have the time to duck in and teach a class or two every semester, I will. Whenever I have the time, I will.
They have such different ideas. They're doing things differently. They're telling stories differently. They're absorbing stories differently. But yeah, that's really cool.
I was wondering, does your family support your career?
Yes, they do. However, I will say that that is a fairly new development. They've been quite supportive now for over a decade. But I think when I was in high school and in university before I got my graduate degrees, and I was saying I'm a visual artist, like I'm an artist, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to study art. I think that freaked them out a little bit. At some point, I had to tell them, and I'll probably teach. And then that kind of calmed them down. When I got into RISD, the Rhode Island School of Design, that was something they could understand because that's in America, that's like a top art school. And they were New Englanders. I was born in New England and then raised on the West Coast, but my parents understood RISD. So kind of calming down then. And then I got into USC and I pivoted unexpectedly to me, I pivoted into narrative, into filmmaking, just fell in love with it and kind of made the switch. And that they were super supportive of. They were excited about that and thought that was cool.
Where did you start and what drew you to the industry?
Okay, so like I was saying before, I went and got an MFA at the Rhode Island School of Design, and I got it in digital media. So even in my undergrad, I was interested in digital art. Sometimes people hear that and they think design. That's not really what it was at all. It was really like art that is involving technology or about technological concepts. So that's how it's defined in the book Digital Art, which was actually written by a mentor of mine, Dr. Christiana Paul. I was really interested in like video and performance and coding and conceptual art and making work for the gallery. But when I was at RISD getting my MFA, I had an amazing time there. But I was really aware of two things. One, I did not feel done with my academic and artistic investigation because MFAs are very quick. They're just 2 years, you're in and out. And two, I was starting to move into narrative and I was doing it very experimentally. And I was shooting like 16 millimeter and on a Bolex and cutting it on a Steenbeck, right? Like very like old school, like, but just the moving image. I was moving into the moving image. And then I was somehow lucky enough to get into this funded doctoral program at USC in the School of Cinematic Arts. It's called Media Arts and Practice. They take 3 people a year and you're just in this really safe environment all of a sudden where financially safe, like you're getting stipends. They're paying for film school. That film school is really expensive. So I was like, okay, like I'm going to leave New York. I'm going to go there and just take a chance, like uproot my life. At this point, still intending to stay in the visual arts and to remain in academia, right? Because in America, that is how visual artists support themselves, by teaching. You get a fancy MFA and you get into a tenure track teaching position. That's what it is, right? We don't really support our visual artists other than that. You can get commissions, you can get grants, but most of us are going to have a day job unless you're like a blue chip gallery artist. So I come to the cinema school and I start, my first day of class. And a couple of things happened. There was some turnover in who was leading my department. So that was a little bit confusing. And also I just realized like, man, PhD is not like an MFA. Like they are not holding my hand here. I got to figure this out for myself. The whole point is that you leave having contributed, quote, like a substantial contribution to your field. Yeah, it's like sink or swim. And I was like, I moved from New York. I gave up 3 jobs there. Like, this is going to happen. I'm going to make this work. I was like, okay, well, what can I do? What do I need for like food, right? I need to figure this out. And I mean, artistic food. So I took Film 1, 507 with the Masters in Film and Television Production students at USC. Because I was like, they're telling me this is the best film school in, they say the world actually, but the country. Like, let me just go see what this is about. And I went in and I was like, hey guys, I'm gonna take this class with you. I'm doing something different. No threat, but maybe I didn't even need to like bring in that energy, but I really still felt like I'm just trying to give myself more tools in the toolbox. And I just fell in love with making films. And it was such a surprise. And I really had to think like, dang, do I want to kind of start over and teach, like learn all these classes and really learn this craft? Like, I'm not just going to start calling myself a director or a filmmaker. Like I have to learn. And I thought, I got all this time. I got these years of PhD work where they're paying for my courses. They want me to take some practice as well as theory because it was a hybrid writing and making PhD, very unusual in the States. And I was like, yeah, whatever. I'm going to just do it. I'm going to start over and I'm going to take all these classes. And it was so collaborative and, making art, you're alone and now you're with teams and it's so fun and you're allowed to focus on comedy. Like It was great. And, people in that class, in my first ever class, they're still the people I'm collaborating with. It's people like Nell knows my good friend Roman. He now works in the documentary space. My friend Maheen Ibrahim, she's up at Disney
Yeah,
running a
yeah.
university
Still at
program.
Disney.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Stephen Cable Jr. directed a Transformers movie. Like, it's like amazing, cool, talented people. Yeah, that just really lit the fire in me. And I took up through advanced directing, advanced cinematography. I took a little editing. I produced a documentary. Like, I just tried to give myself as many experiences as possible to try to have this educational yet also like creative chunk of time.
Yeah, and I love that you talk about it as a craft. Like I needed to go and learn the craft because I think as our society and the way that we absorb media has changed, I think our industry splinters off into even more factions. But the way that I guess that's the artist in you as well, is learning a craft and really looking at it as a craft. And people talk about it as a trade as well. It's really nice to hear you say that.
And I love that you said food as well, like any food.
Yeah,
Yes, everyone needs
artistic food.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I kind of want to plaster that on the meeting room wall.
So tell us your career highlight to date.
I love that question. And it's one, I think I can hit some high points for you. But in terms of one highlight, I'd love to just think that hasn't happened yet. We're always kind of working towards our next job here in the biz. And I am no different, right? It's always like very hopeful. You've got your projects going. You're not sure exactly which one's going to hit and when, but I don't know, plates are spinning. So my first short film, right? So the first time I said, I'm going to actually make a traditional narrative. And this is a couple of years into USC. I'm not talking about like homework assignments and projects. Like when I said like, I'm going to make something and it's not for the gallery anymore. It's for a theater space. I will try to send it to festivals. I'll try to find that audience, but it's just a movie, right? Not an art piece, just a movie. And it's a short film called Tampoon. We finished it in 2015, and it's a horror comedy about a possessed tampon and the woman that it inhabits.
Oh my goodness, that's amazing.
It is available online if anybody wants to watch it.
Love it. We'll link it in the show notes.
Yes.
Okay. It did really well. It did a nice little run in festivals, and I got to go to a lot of those festivals where it played, and it was so rewarding. I remember we were in one in San Francisco called Another Hole in the Head. That's the name of the festival. And I think this was in 2015. I'd have to check. But we were in a horror block. And God bless the people who were with me in that block. I don't know who they were. Their films were all like cool. But one comment is that for some reason in this block, every female character in the films before mine, and I played, I think, last or second to last, they were dead, speechless. One time it was just a pile of women's bodies. I mean, it was like almost funny. And there were a lot of men just watching with me. Like horror audiences are the best though, because they just want something that blows their hair back. Like they are
100%.
So we get to my film, about a woman and her tampon and her bad boyfriend. And these guys are like, yes, we love it. I won an award from those people. Like they loved it. It was like, and I was like, okay, these are my people. We're gonna keep this going.
Yeah, love it.
And that was the first one. And then there's been lovely bright spots and several big things like that almost happened, that you got your movie with a really amazing producer, and it's like 2020 though. And then it's COVID and you're like, okay, that's not happened. Sold the show in 2021, chugging along, the writer's strike, after the writer's strike, not happening, but you can't get derailed. Like, you're like, all right, cool. I guess I'll sell another one. Like they take a long time, projects take a long time. So that's why you kind of have to be working on a bunch of things all the time. Otherwise, I think if it's one thing, it will be too disheartening, when it hits speed bumps. So you have to just keep doing it. Keep showing up for your work, keep writing every morning, finishing stuff, just see what happens.
It does take a really long time to get things made, but it's interesting. A lot of people, they hear that and they go, I don't understand why. For you and your experience, why does it take so long to get things made?
I will say it's waiting on other people. Yeah. It's like everybody's got a lot of stuff going on, all the producers, all the execs, everybody's got stuff. If you're not high priority, we all want to be high priority at some point, but if you're not high priority, like it's going to take a while just to get things read. Just to get any momentum at all, you really have to find someone who will champion not just you, but that project, because people who've championed other projects of yours may not vibe with this one.
Mm.
That's just how it is. Like you're never gonna be a 100% crowd pleaser, right? I mean, maybe like some Pixar movies, I guess, are pretty good at that, but most of us,
Inside
most
Out
of
was
us
quite
not.
broad. I feel like that
Yes,
had a very
love
broad
that.
audience. Yeah.
We love that movie. We loved
Okay.
it. But yeah, you're waiting for permission from producers to be ready to pitch or whatever it is. Like it's not so much the writing anymore for me. Like the writing has gotten fairly fast, like I feel pretty solid. But it's yeah, waiting on other folks. And that's just how it is. But you know what? I'm gonna do smaller projects while I'm waiting, is what it is.
Yeah.
Stuff that I can just get going on my own with my friends, with my collaborators. So in 2022, you're kind of just still out of quarantine, right? I mean, you've been out, but the world it's still coming back to normal.
Okay.
I had an art show. I had a solo show at a museum, and that was great. And we did these performance videos, and I collaborated with a bunch of my director friends, and it was really fun to make this big media installation. And while I was installing it in Utah, I was like, oh my God, I just had one of those blasts of inspiration that we love. And we were so grateful when they come to us. And I thought this show that we did with a little more structure and someone kind of show running it, this is an anthology film with one narrative. I thought, okay, so we've got this project in my brain and we're thinking about it like an exquisite corpse drawing. So it's an exquisite corpse. It's a French drawing game, and you fold a piece of paper and then one person draws like the top of the head, and then you fold whatever like the nose. And so then you open the whole thing and you see the whole drawing that everyone's made without knowing what came before. So it's kind of an exquisite corpse film. It's about a woman with, it's a comedy. It's a genre comedy. It's about a woman with an avoidant attachment style who is a partner, like that she's been dating casually for 10 years, but like it's not serious. And then he proposes, and she's so freaked out that she literally is like, excuse me, and like runs away, ends up hiding in a psychic's studio. He's like, you have crazy energy.
Yeah.
The psychic is actually played by Noah Coogler, Ryan Coogler's little brother. He's a rapper.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Amazing.
Gives her a reading, and he's like, bro, I can see right into your alternate timelines. Like, you got to see this. And he sends her on this like Ebenezer Scrooge type adventure where she's jumping into her different timelines. Because she's, avoidantly attached, what do? Well, if you can't attach healthily to people, you become a cult leader. You marry the wrong person, and now you're trapped in this like big house with your horrible children. I won't spoil it for you, but she goes on this journey through her different universes, each one directed by a different person, like one of my friends.
I love that. Yeah.
They come out at the end kind of healed. And so we made, thank you. Oh my God, thank you.
Really incredible.
We shot it off and on September to maybe early December 2022. It has taken this long to get out of post. We are literally putting it together. So it'll be ready, except for sound mix, which we have to do, but we will do that soon. And we have only spent, now a lot of people worked for free and are getting points or getting paid their day rate afterwards. And I do not recommend doing that. I believe in paying people, but this was a small, scrappy project. Like literally some days there were like 3 crew members and that's it. Not every day. Some days we had 15 extras, whatever, but some of the days were small, right? Each was their own little short film. And the directors were in charge of some things, like they did a lot of their own producing, although we had, of course, actual producers who were amazing, Jamari Perry and Jordan Barber and Aaron Chushani. But anyway, at this point today, we've spent like less than $20,000.
Wow.
That's incredible. And just to be clear, when you talk about points, that means like guild points, like, or points towards,
or like back end?
Back end sales.
Okay.
But then of course we're all hoping that it does sell. It felt good to do it that way because there were so many people, like so many writers, so many directors, and everyone was just like, yes, oh my God, we're making this project. I don't care. Because nobody had been working. We were all so just hungry creatively. They just wanted to make something happen. The title of that film is Cold Feet. It was great.
I love that.
And the most important thing is to be working on stuff, submitting it to things, be around, be chatting with people. And then that's always how it happens. That's always how you meet people. Be vocal about what you want. If you're looking for a rep, if you're looking for a manager, if you're looking for an agent, tell people, right? Tell people at parties, like they want to you. Everybody's story is different for how they get their reps.
it's got to be right for you. Like, and a lot of people end up going with just the first agent that signs them because you want to, but after a while you figure out what's right for you.
And also it's being okay with saying no to stuff.
Yes.
Like even projects and collaborations. I mean, I'm such a yes person that I'm like, yes, yes, yes.
We're taught that in this industry. Just say yes.
Yeah.
It's like, it's an opportunity. Great.
I know. And it's really something that we have to unlearn because it's a scarcity mindset.
Yes.
And I think that you have to change yourself to an abundance mindset. Like I can say no to this and something else will come.
What's the hardest challenge you've had to overcome in your career?
You really have to have a lot of resilience. There will always be external challenges. There will be people who just don't like you for some reason, right? And it could be something to do with your demographics or not. And there are people who just don't care about you, right? It's just, that's almost worse when they're just not worthy of their attention at all.
Yeah.
And these are the things that you cannot think about and that you cannot stay up at night worrying about. Like you have to just keep going. And your project, some of them are not going to happen. And you have to be okay with it. And you have to get up in the morning and still feel optimistic and still keep going and be like, dang, that script took me, 6 months. Okay, well, I guess I have to write another one. Like you just have to do it. And there's things that you'll need with that. Like, unless you come from money, which most of us do not, and I certainly do not, you will need a bread job. You're going to have to do something else and try to do something that gives you free time to write and that doesn't drain you creatively, but that can, keep you fed enough so that you can still also focus on the primary thing in your life, which is your creativity and your productivity within that creativity. So I think that's the hardest thing, is just the moments of despair will come and you have to just figure out like, okay, like I know I've been here before and I swam out of it. How do I swim out of it and back into like productivity lane? Because that's where I need to be.
Love that. It's really, it's so relatable.
Yes. Yes.
Perfect.
Are there any trends that you're noticing in the industry?
Well, we've been in the world is booms and busts. The world of the business is booms and busts. We are in a bust period where there's not a lot of work. But I'm starting to hear about friends and people I know getting meetings and having pitches and possible sales. And people are saying maybe early 2025 after Sundance, maybe things pick up. So I'm hoping that we're trending towards just more work for everyone. Creative trends, I'm not sure. It's hard when things haven't been getting made for a while because people are really scared. They're really risk averse.
Yeah.
We'll see. I think it's a nice moment for indie filmmakers. Honestly, I do, right? Like you can get your stuff finished right now without thinking about like, is this the right time for this project to go on the market? Like if you can separate yourself from all of that noise around you and just make your stuff, I think we have a real chance for some really interesting projects.
I love that. It's the writer from American Fiction when he won. Cord Jefferson, when he won, he said, take $50 million and make $10 million films like American Fiction and you'll start to build the industry again. It's so true. The indie films is where you'll find different storytellers and artists and people who are doing things differently, I think. Different vision, totally.
I think that's why, though, because Jeannie, what you were saying about the risk-averse nature of the bigger studios and stuff, like they only want to invest in things with a guaranteed audience, like a franchise or a sequel or whatever. Yeah. So it's the indie filmmakers who are like, I'm going to push this forward. This is my baby. And that's what actually audiences are craving.
Yeah. They do. And as you say, like that's why the horror audience is amazing. They want their hair blown back. They want to be shocked because, we're quite desensitized to a lot of things now.
Yeah.
So it's kind of push the envelope and see if you can shock them, I think, especially Gen Z. So what's a film or piece of art that's inspired you or has influenced you?
Oh my God, so many. I have a very literal answer for this question. So in Cold Feet, we do an homage to a 60s performance art piece by an Austrian artist named Valia Export.
Yeah.
The piece is called, I can hear the fine art audience cracking up right now. The piece is called Action Pants Genital Panic. And honestly, if you're listening to this, you just need to Google it and see this image. Iconic woman in her beautiful bush area. But performance art is amazing. We love it. We love the 60s. So she goes into a theater wearing crotchless pants and carrying a gun.
Great.
And the images are just of her like spread eagle, the most badass expression on her face, like holding a gun, like daring
Wow.
people to go for her. And, I mean, it's iconic. So we do a little homage to that in Cold Feet.
I love that. Yes, we will be Googling that as soon as we are done with this interview.
How has the journey differed so far from what you expected?
Oh my God. It's nothing like what you expect. You're like, I'll make this movie and then I'll make a movie of this scale and then this scale. And life will just go up, a
Yeah.
beautiful rainbow that I'm walking up. No, it's totally, totally different. It's totally different. And I think for me right now, I am looking for additional forms of creative expression that don't cost hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars because I feel like I could be doing more. Like I'm doing a lot. I'm on a paid writing assignment right now. I directed a vertical for the phone over the summer. I may
Great.
do another one in the winter. I'm writing a feature script for a friend of mine who has a 3-picture deal at a
Yeah.
major studio. So he asked me to write his number 2. He's in post on his number 1. We'll see though. We'll see how everything goes, but it's all like a bunch of bits. And I'm teaching and I'm, doing ceramics in my free time, but I'm still like, dang, I have more to give here. I'm like, what is the thing then? Is it another Horrors to Say It? Is it another short? Because they're doable. I don't necessarily want to spearhead another anthology film right now because it just took so long. Should I just do another ultra low that I write and direct? And should I write a book? I mean, this is what keeps me up at night. I'm like, where am I going to pour this energy?
Well, as you said, it's artistic food.
Yeah. In the book, The Artist's Way, I did The Artist's Way in quarantine. And she talks about artist dates. So you're supposed to take yourself on an artist date once a week, which is like food for your soul. And it can be going to like the beach or taking a class or going to a museum. It's whatever sounds good to you. It doesn't have to be like so specific to your creative practice, but something, maybe it's like a different kind of cuisine you've wanted to try, but actually taking the time, making it a priority and doing something for yourself that's enriching at least once a week. I try to do that.
So how do you think USC has helped or hindered your journey? And obviously, it's an amazing school. We know that there are incredible artists that come out of there, but how do you feel like it's helped or hindered your journey?
I'm really, really grateful to USC because I just walked over to the production building, SCA, and was like, hey, can I take this class? And they were like, sure. And pretty much that was it. And that just kicked it off. And I went in and I'm grateful to my fellow students in that class because I was like, well, I'm different. I'm going to make like art with it. And they were like, whatever, but they were cool with me also then shifting it, acknowledging like I am actually going to try to make films. So it was very supportive. You are only your network and you rise and fall together. Truly, like the people who can stay and keep working and help bring each other up, like it's really important. It's really, really important. And I'm not saying you have to be in LA or New York, or you can probably do it elsewhere, but you still have to sort of develop your network. And that may mean traveling to shoot something or work on somebody else's project. It may mean taking your project to a lot of festivals and raising the money to be able to go to make new contacts, because that's a big part of it. Well, people want to hang out.
Yeah. And being in places where those other people will be.
Deals are happening.
Yeah.
What is your superpower?
Well, I'm really good at ceramics now. I don't know if it's a superpower.
It's totally a superpower.
I'm going to show you this cup that I made.
Oh, cute.
That's amazing.
Wow. I would buy that.
Yeah, I would buy that.
I feel like art is definitely your superpower.
Yeah.
It just depends on what you're doing at the time, for sure. And so what are you watching and where are you watching it?
I do try to go to the movies once a week because I'm paying for AMC stubs.
Nice.
So I'm trying to watch everything. Because the script that I'm writing, it's an action comedy, which is a space that I've worked in a lot. Because of that, I'm watching a lot of action comedies. So I'm watching a lot of all of the 87 North ones, right? Fall Guy, Bullet Train, Violent Night. I rewatched Mr. and Mrs. Smith recently. I rewatched the movie and I watched the show. Fun stuff, fun genre stuff is kind of the space that I'm in at the moment. Oh, and you know what I just rewatched? This is the craziest movie. My brothers loved this movie. It's from the 90s. It's called Surf Ninjas.
Yes.
It's incredible. I was like, I cannot believe that this movie got made. The 90s were good, actually.
Oh,
like,
weren't they?
Great.
Golden. That's why we're all like filmmakers.
I know.
Because they were
Yes.
yeah.
I really think that's true. It's like
Yeah.
these kids' movies
Mm.
were so impactful and like they're so amazing. There's like a bunch of shots with like I want to say 40 guys like dressed as ninjas on these like big wooden surfboards all and we're like in a helicopter. So there were no drones then. Like in a
Yeah.
helicopter, like all surfing from one island to another. Like I was like, this is amazing. I love
Yeah.
this movie.
Okay, lucky last question, and the question we ask everyone. What's one bit of advice that will actually help our listeners move their career forward?
My best piece of advice is that you have to finish your projects. There will come a moment where you believe that you cannot do it. That's when you have to really push forward. You must finish. It doesn't matter. Just finish it. So many people cannot do that. It's essential that you finish your project and you have to, like, you just have to finish, right? You're tired of it. You're done. You want to move on. Doesn't matter. Just finish it. Let it be in the world, living its own life. Then you can move forward.
I loved that chat with Jeannie. So much to get out of it. How she adapted during COVID, the power of her USC network, and that age-old it's who you know. But I feel like that idea lends itself to community, like get to know people and form a community so that we can all rise together. And that like really aligns with what we're trying to do here. So it's like that whole thing of when one succeeds, we can all succeed. We can share information and opportunities.
Absolutely. Well, team, that's all we have time for, but we would love to hear from you. Send us an email and let us know who or what you want to hear on the podcast. Follow us on socials at cut.pod and, slide on into those DMs.
Slide on in. Just get on in there. Thanks so much for stuffing us in your ears. We can't wait to dig into more in our next episode where we chat to percussionist and music educator Jo Martone. Remember to subscribe, give us a review, and tell your friends, or tell your mum, or tell your mum's friends. Tell everyone. It's great. See you next time.
See you next time.
Cut is an Undertow content podcast. Your hosts are Amanda Brown and Nell Nacken. Music composed by Genevieve Patrick, produced by Meg Hipwell and Ali Aitken. This episode wouldn't have been possible without our friends at Talent, where advertisers find premium talent. Talent, TLYNT.com.